You're welcome back. Well, in June, the Deep Blue campaign to stop regional piracy was launched. This is a national security and waterways protection infrastructure worth about $195 million of equipment that's to be used in a coordinated effort with its primary objective of securing Nigerian waters along the Gulf of Guinea and the country's oil infrastructure, which with coordinated combination of land, sea and air force. Months later, in October to be precise, the International Maritime Bureau releases a report indicating that piracy in Nigerian waters and the Gulf of Guinea is in its lowest in 17 years. Are these two actions related, and what will be the ripple effect on the maritime industry? We have Foluke Akimoladu, Managing Solicitor, Treason Law Chambers, and co-lead of the Transportation Workstream of the Presidential National Action Committee on AFCFTA, joining us to bear her mind on this. Good to speak with you, Foluke. Good morning.
Good morning, Lee. How are you doing?
I'm great. You're welcome. So before now, before this reduction, 17-year reduction, how much of a challenge was piracy on Nigerian waters?
Well, Nigerian waters has had an $26.3 billion loss annually due to piracy. And as you can imagine, that has great implications in terms of national GDP. And in addition to that, has adversely affected investment in the maritime sector. We've had a situation where Nigeria has a coastline of 853 kilometers of coastline, territorial waters of 200 nautical miles, which is what some of the largest in the African continent. And because of the issue of piracy, there has been a difficult business case for having to increase port infrastructure, because having ports without having ships that are willing to berth there for the government would have been a bit of a challenge. But even for the private sector, how do you invest in a space where you are not sure you can get your returns on investment because of the amount of piracy and criminal activities that happen on the seas? The other adverse effect it's had on Nigeria internationally is that it has affected Nigeria's election into the International Maritime Organization's Category C Council. And of course, when you are on the table, as they call it, it's easier for you to have your say in policy development. And Nigeria's inability to be part of that council has also affected Nigeria's ability to be heard in that council as far as the development of maritime on the world global stage is concerned.
So with this report now that piracy and armed robbery attacks in the Nigerian waters is down about 77% in the first 9 months of this compared to the same period of last year, can we comfortably say this is connected to the Deep Blue project?
Well, the Deep Blue project, which is known as the Integrated National Security and Waterways Protection Infrastructure, was launched by President Muhammadu Buhari on June the 10th, 2021. This maritime security infrastructure project essentially was to address the issue of piracy. And amongst its management personnel, you have the Army, you have the Navy, you have the Air Force, you have the police and the DSS. And that system is managed by NEMASA, that's the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. In addition to the Deep Blue project, you also have the Falcon Eye project, which is the Navy's strategic maritime surveillance system that was also launched earlier this year. And in 2019, the federal government passed the Law on the Suppression of Piracy and Other Maritime Offences Bill on June the 24th of 2019. So with this concerted efforts by the federal government, the idea is to address the issue of piracy head on, to reduce the adverse publicity that Nigeria was getting from the issue of piracy, because at the point, Nigeria's waters became the second most dangerous waters in the world after Somalia. And of course, the other adverse effect of having this was the fact that people would have their goods passed through Benin and Togo. and thereby not allowing Nigeria to get much needed foreign revenue from Nigerian shippers. So it was bad enough that you have foreign ships majorly carrying Nigerian cargo. You now had those foreign ships having to berth in neighboring African countries and transship those goods into Nigeria. So we were losing both ways, both from the ship ownership side and from the shippers' side in terms of Nigerians who own cargo. So indeed, this Deep Blue project and Falcon Eye and this law has immensely improved the Nigerian maritime space. And like you had rightly mentioned earlier in the introduction,
Oh, I think we have a bit of network issues there with Foluke. I'm sure she would join us back soon. Talking about all the
can you
good
hear me?
news.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me now?
yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now, please? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sorry for that technical glitch. Yes, I was just going to round off on that point by saying that um, because of all these concerted efforts by the federal government, we have now seen a drastic reduction in piracy and, of course, increased interest in the Nigerian maritime space. And that's good news for the federal government's policy drive to improve on the non-oil sectors in the country.
And we see that the good news also spread to the entire Gulf of Guinea, which witnessed a similar decline. Only 28 incidents in this period compared to 46 the same period last year. So does it mean that majority of the insecurity incidents we have in the Gulf of Guinea is actually attributed to Nigeria?
Um, well, not exactly. The easier way to look at it is majority of the goods that are coming into the Gulf of Guinea are coming into Nigeria. And so because of that, I mean, pirates steal cargo. That's essentially what it is, steal cargo and kidnap crewmen. And so it is where the cargo is prevalent or where the cargo is moving to the most that you have more of pirate activities. You also have the fact that, of course, there are a number of offshore activities in the Nigerian maritime waters as well. And so, indeed, the whole of the Gulf of Guinea has significantly benefited from the maritime security infrastructure that Nigeria has put in place. And it is also helping in terms of the Nigeria's coastal neighbors in their own waterways as well.
So what are the more obvious benefits we're supposed to see from this now? You know, taking it beyond just the figures, oh, we have 77% less crime out. And what are some of the benefits that we should expect to see in the coming months coming from this report?
Okay, so the immediate benefit is that Nigerian cargo owners would see a reduction in insurance premium. So what is currently happening is that most people most cargo owners have to pay increased insurance premiums, which in some places is called war risk premium, by reason of the increased cost of possibly losing your cargo to pirates. And so being able to address that piracy issue immediately drops the cost of insurance once those negotiations are done in the international space. So it would reduce insurance costs. The more long-term benefits, of course, is that it will be easier to invest in the maritime space, so easier to make a business case to the bank with respect to funding of shipping. It's also easier for the government to invest in port infrastructure because now you know that those businesses, those ports will be fully engaged. There isn't the issue, there's not the fear of loss of security, for a loss of life or property by coming into those spaces. So we're going to be seeing an increased investment in the maritime space by reason of this reduction in piracy. And of course, with more Nigerian ships, more Nigerian crews can have sea time practical training. That would also increase the number of Nigerian maritime seamen who can then export their services to other parts of the world and increase diaspora remittances. So the implications are huge, both in the short term, mid term, and in the long term.
before we talk about the short term, the mid term, and the long term, we need to talk about sustenance of this, so we don't get our eyes off the goal. How can this be sustained? Yes, we have, the Deep Blue project, but can we sustain this?
I do believe, with the fact that the federal government is trying to address these issues on so many grounds, and I'm saying this from the private sector, please, I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government, but in terms of as an independent observer of what's happening in the maritime space, I do believe that this is here to stay because it helps in terms of developing one of Nigeria's major non-oil sectors, which is the maritime sector. It also is going to help boost Nigeria's possibility of being elected into the International Maritime Organizations Council, and that increases Nigeria's ability to speak or to be heard in that space. And so things that adversely affect Nigeria can now be addressed on the international scene. So I do believe it is here to stay. And then, of course, with the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we are seeing the possibility of Nigeria being developed as a transit hub. Because if you know from the geography of Nigeria, we are surrounded by a number of landlocked countries. So being able to get, ensuring that our maritime space is free of piracy ensures that those landlocked countries can begin to make use of Nigeria's coastal waters to carry their cargo. So you have Chad, Niger, and the likes that can easily make use of the Nigerian waterways in terms of carrying their cargo. So certainly there's a lot of incentive in ensuring that this system comes to stay.
And I'm sure one of the incentives should also be in our oil production. I mean, just before you came on, I don't know if you heard the conversation we had, we cannot fully maximize the boom in the oil prices at this time because we can't meet up with the quota of 1.8 million barrels, which we're supposed to be producing, and it's all because of insecurity. So I guess this should also trickle down to the oil space.
It will certainly trickle down in the oil space. And the other additional benefit in that space as well is that the IMO has given year 2050 to reduce carbon emissions by 50%. And Nigeria is a gas country as much as an oil country. As much as it exports crude, it also has gas for export. Now, what that then means is that Nigeria stands to gain in terms of being able to export the gas that will be needed by other countries for their ships to move on the waters, because gas is a cleaner form of energy compared to other forms of energy that is being used to propel ships now. So indeed, there's a lot of good news going forward if this trend continues. So yes, it is going to truly benefit the oil and gas.
All right, we look forward to those benefits and do hope that the system continues to keep the pirates away from our waterways and the Gulf of Guinea. Thank you so much, Foluke Akimoladun, Managing Solicitor, Treason Law Chambers, and co-lead National Action Committee on AFCFTA. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.